Welcome everybody to the May Allotment Tour. There's been so much going on in May, and I'm going to show you around and see where we are. So the fruit garden has really greened up. The foliage is tremendous, and we've got a few gooseberries on the gooseberry bushes at the back, and a lot of other bushes really leafed up and performing well. The pear tree does seem to have a good few pears on it, and I'm pleased about that because we've pruned it quite extensively. You can see there a very small pear developing, and on first glance they're hard to see, but as you start looking around, so you see more and more. What I don't see is the clusters of pears that I had last year. Not sure for the reason, but we certainly are going to get some pears on here, which is good. There's a couple there in the morning sunshine, looking really well. The rhubarb I've left and not picked this year, and the plants are doing quite well, and I just want them to get nice and strong so that next year we can pick from them. This one took the most damage from its move, and it also flowered, which was a reaction of the move, but it's now starting to get established, and we can see some new growth in amongst those stems. And the other variety, the later variety, is looking really strong. In fact, you could harvest some of this, but I am going to leave it and let those plants get really bushy for the next year. The seed beds have been mixed success. There's an awful lot of weeding required because the soil was from the plot, and the process of turning that soil over really brings all those weed seeds to the surface and makes the weeding task really difficult. But we've got calendula there, which are doing really well. I've weeded that once and it needs it again. And another variety of calendula there, again needing weeding very shortly. This was Rudbeckia, and to be honest with you, I can't see any. I think that's completely weeds, and I think I'm going to end up taking that out and planting some flowers in it. In this one, we've done a bit of weeding, and we can see the poppies that we've sown, and they're looking really well. Everything else needs to come out, and we should have a few clusters of poppies, which will be great. And these two are cosmos, and you can see the cosmos coming through, which is marvellous, but the other weeds do need to be taken out, and it's exactly the same with this one. And the actual cosmos are few and far between in here, so I don't know, when we get to weeding it we might have to decide how we go forward. The flower bed, stroke herb bed, is looking well. This is the other raspberry that we put in, the autumn one, and that's doing okay. We've planted the lavender into this bed and a variety of different flowers which are coming well. We thought that that fuchsia was dead, but it's actually come back to life. I would have taken that out, but Mrs. K said hang in there, and she was right, of course. And down here we've got a number of herbs. We've got rosemary, oregano, some Welsh garlic chives, parsley. So that bed's doing well. Again, it needs a weed. The peas here gave us a bit of a chuckle. We thought that they were sweet peas. They were in an envelope from last year, but it turns out that they're actually sweet peas stroke edible peas. So we've been eating the mange too in our salads, and we've had a few there that are starting to develop peas, so they'll be interesting. I think they're probably peas I saved from last year, and well, we'll eat them, but they weren't intended for this flower bed. So I've been renovating the shed, which has come together quite well, and I've still to put the strawberry baskets back up on the side of the bed. At the moment they're sitting here in this rhubarb area, and this rhubarb has prospered really well because I've been watering it regularly, and that was the problem last year when it really didn't prosper because I didn't spend the time watering it. It's clearly a dry bed. We've got a couple of picking pots here. This one is, I think, yeah, rocket, and that's getting close to picking. This is coriander calypso, which is supposed to be resistant to bolting, so we'll see. And then we've got a picking pot of parsley. Now they're all working out well. Onto the main bed. So this is the leeks that I planted probably about 6 or 7 days ago now, and they're all stood up now, which is great to see. I've spent some time weeding this whole area over the last 2 evenings. I suppose it was about an hour and a half to 2 hours of weeding. The weeds were fairly minor, but mainly consisted of mare's tail. So that process will go on and on, I'm sure. So the leeks are all in and doing well. I put the beans out during the week. This is the runner bean. Got a few marigolds at the start of the bed, and I've been amazed how quickly these have grown. So this fella here is right up to, I don't know, 2 foot up the cane and already twisting around it nicely. Each night I just make sure that those plants can twist around. Some of them have not taken, but it's early days yet. But mainly they're getting around those poles and getting up them, which is great. So really pleased with the beans. Over here I've put in a few extra calabrese or broccoli. That is the 120-day variety, just to fill up this bed. The rest of the bed was put over to parsnips, which were in toilet rolls, and my objective is always to get an even spread of plants, and I'm really pleased to say that that method has worked again this time, and all of those plants have taken and are doing well. Over the way there we've got the one munchkin pumpkin that I've managed to propagate or sow and germinate, and that got eaten last year, so I'm keeping it in the middle of this bed so that slugs are far away from it, letting it get established, and then I'll choose its site. I want to say that this garlic is probably the best garlic I've ever grown, and from last year where it was an absolute disaster to that position is a small miracle. But these are looking so well, and I'm watering them regularly. We've still got green foliage, and I'm going to wait a little longer before harvesting them until we see more of those leaves die back. But there's 3 varieties in here, and you can sort of distinguish them now. And this particular variety, whilst not an elephant garlic, is going to be really large by the looks of it. I'm really pleased with those. This is sowing 2 and 3 of the broad beans, and yesterday for the first time I had black fly on the tips, and I'm considering now whether to take the tips out on these. I'm going to keep an eye on it carefully just to make sure we don't get an infestation of black fly. Oh, a neighbouring cat, one of many. Those of you that watched my videos at the beginning of the year will know that I pruned these red currants fairly drastically, and as with the black currants I was concerned that we wouldn't get an awful lot of fruit. Well, I was wrong. The red currants on here are prolific this year, and I noticed yesterday that just one or two are beginning to turn red, and it looks like we're going to have a bumper red currant year. So we're looking forward to lots of jams and jellies. So this is the first sowing and planting of broad beans. The plants are a lot more mature, and we're starting to see pods form now on the plants, which is great. So they're really healthy. I'm really pleased with those. And as of yet, no sign of black fly on these broad beans. So we'll keep going with them, not pinching out the tops until we see anything that is significant. On top of the water tanks, we've got the strawberries, and yeah, I'm pleased with this method. Watering them can be a bit of a challenge, lifting that watering can up every day, but they're certainly prospering, which is good. My sprouts are doing well, plants looking strong, and we'll have to stake those in the not too distant future, because we do not want them falling over like last year's. A few more strawberries there, and we've got some broccoli and some collie in this bed, and they all seem to be doing quite well. If you remember back along me sowing onions in November from seed, and it's just amazing to see in May how well developed they are. So this is the shallot Zeebrun, which is really, really strong. And then we've got Ryan's Burger, long keeping onion, and a few Elsa Craig onions, but they're all doing really well. I planted a few flowers into these pots, the anti-slug pots with this copper band around it, and these sweet peas doing really well, and no sign of slug damage at the moment, so fingers crossed that's working. And into this bed, which is the swede, and I had a real game with swede this year. Difficult to get them to germinate, but these plants did, and they're all coming on well. And I've interplanted with some white Lisbon spring onions, and they seem to be perking up now nicely. This is a mixed bed of two varieties of celeriac, which are looking nice and strong. And we've also got the odds and sods of the onions that were left, which I've put down the middle, and they'll just be bonus. These are some of my first plantings into these small beds. This is cabbage greyhound, which is growing really nicely. And then we've got golden acre, and this is a primo cabbage, and one of them didn't do so well, and I've had to replace it, but that's fine. That just gives me a cabbage that's a bit later developing. And then this is the 60-day broccoli, and those plants are looking really healthy, so I'm pleased with those. We've got some flowers just forming on the calendula in this slug-proof bucket, and again, no evidence of slugs, which is excellent. And here, these are my pride and joy. This is the celeriac monarch, which I have tended to very carefully and give some extra special attention, and they really are looking very healthy indeed. And a few at the end, which are prins, again looking really nice. They seem to be catching up. They were a bit smaller. The turnip bed is looking well. We've got the Norfolk purple and the Milan white turnip. The purple look like they're a slightly larger plant, so that'll be interesting. And I put in a few Romanesco just to fill the bed, but they're looking really healthy. The beetroot out here are a little slow. There's three varieties in here, and you can make out the different species just by the plant colour and shape. And these are a more purple plant, and we've got Boltardi at the end, Solo, and this one is called Shogia. And the last flower pot are these amazing Cosmos, and this is called Cosmos Gazebo. It's obviously a mixed variety, but it's got the purple and lavender hues, and these are just beautiful flowers. I'm really, really pleased with those. And the one Millennium, which I've got in the middle, is bushy, but nowhere near flowering yet. So they're a real sight. Beautiful plants. And to its right, we've got Romanesco and Giant Collie. And again, most of these have done really well and are healthy plants. But I have had to replace one. Now, this corner seems to get eaten. I guess it's near to the grass. I don't know, but it always seems to be the same. That one plant seems to struggle. So swinging around, you can see my spares. These are all plants that are over and above what I need. But I've already dipped into this a couple of times to replace plants where the roots were damaged or some reason I've needed to take them out. And today I'm going to need to plant a lettuce into the polytunnel because it bolted, and we'll carry on looking after these and they'll continue to be useful spares. Well, the hanging strawberries of Babylon, which is about 6 or 7 trays of spare strawberries that I had, doing really well. They've flowered, a lot of them are beginning to fruit, and this fruit will be a lot later than the polytunnel, but looks like we're going to have a real good show of strawberries up on the water tank. This bed has got cabbage in at the moment. That cabbage is fantastic and we can continue to use it. Ultimately this is going to be the kale bed, and those kale plants are coming on nicely. And kale's a plant that you can plant quite late. It's a winter vegetable as much as a summer one, so no problem with how late they are. So this week I put the courgettes into their bed, and last year I suffered from them being eaten by slugs. This year I've put that magic eggshell down in the hope that it will solve the problem. And these don't seem to be getting any slug damage at the moment, and after 3 or 4 days they do seem to be quite well. So I'm pleased with how they're developing. There's flowers on them, and hopefully we'll have plenty of courgettes. If they all succeed, we'll have way too many courgettes, but there we are, we can always give some away. Squash bed, we've got these pots which I have weeded and taken care of during the course of the year, and we've got strawberries in the first one, strawberries in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, so we're going to have a really good showing of strawberries. We've got Jerusalem artichokes in this 3rd one, and in this 2nd one that's horseradish, and they all look really healthy. The main thing up here is keeping them watered because they do dry out in those pots really easy. And I noticed those strawberries down here are starting to turn red, which is great to see. That's the first red outdoor strawberries to the polytunnel. And things are doing really well in here. The peppers have been transplanted, and I need to be a bit careful. These trays hold the water once I've watered, and I was listening to the legend that is Monty Don last night on Gardener's World, and he was saying how peppers really don't like to have their feet wet, and I'm just conscious that the water pools in these, and I probably either need to make sure I don't overwater, or I need to take those out of the trays, so I'm going to keep a close eye on them. The lettuce and the spring onions are just becoming really prolific now, and I've been harvesting the lettuce. It's growing faster than we can eat it for sure, and the chickens are getting a fair amount. And I took one out of that hole yesterday, which I need to replace because it bolted. And we've also got a beetroot going to seed there, and we'll probably have that one out as well. But that's fine, they're in clusters, and it just means that the bulbs underneath the actual beetroot will get that much larger. So the cucumber that I planted has got 3 or 4 green leaves on it now, but it's very slow. And the one just to the right of it, which was given to me by a neighbour, is doing well, but they're certainly not getting away at any speed. And I think I'm going to trail them up these steel posts, but we'll see how we go. Early days yet. Aubergines are doing well. These halos seem to be working, and the carrots, I've got a fair old size on them now, and I'm really quite pleased with these. And I seem to have got over the green fly problem. There's still a few weeds starting to come through on this soil, which I took from around the plot, and I've got just a couple of weaker ones down at the back there, but they should come through. All the tomatoes are doing well, and I'm just pinching them out every day, making sure that we don't get any the leaders come out from the leaf nodes, and that way I can control the shape of the tomatoes. And these are the kale, which I'll be planting out later. They've potted on, and just a few days ago they were in cells in a seed tray, and they've come on so quickly once you put them on. Really incredible. And this of course is the great squash and pumpkin race. My solution to having rather winicky pumpkin plants, and it really is quite surprising how well these have done. Even seeds back to 2015 germinating well. Anything older than that, 2014 and 13, doesn't seem to be coming through, but everything else pretty much germinated. And I'm convinced that these plants will catch up with those that I've got outside, and I'll replace them. They really are looking very healthy. Keep those going for a while. This is the Mrs. Green Thumb's Tomato Challenge Beef Steak tomatoes. There's 4 there, and they're really starting to take a hold now and bush out, which is great to see. And I planted just a little bit of spinach. It says Cauliflower Autumn Giant on that label, but that's an old label, and on the other side it does say spinach. We're not big spinach eaters, but we're going to give it another try, and I'll just use that as a picking pot. Basil, which if you touch smells absolutely glorious. We've started eating that, and I've got basil in the propagator at home, various varieties, which won't be long before it comes over here. And then these are my propagations taken from the mother plants and rooted in glass jars and potted up, and they all seem to have taken well, and hopefully that will increase my stock of culinary herbs. The strawberries, well, we've had about 4 or 5 pickings of strawberries now, and they're really coming on strong now, and I think it's not going to be long before Mrs. K starts making strawberry jam, because there's a limit to how many we can eat, and we love strawberry jam. Now immediately outside the polytunnel I put the potatoes that I started early, and they're really pushing out now. And I noticed yesterday when I was watering, you can get down in there, there's definitely some potatoes beginning to surface. So it won't be long before we have those out and enjoy some new potatoes. The carrot tub that I created is doing well. I keep taking out these smaller weeds, allowing the carrots to come through, and I think we're going to get a good show of carrots there. So that's Nont 2. And the path that I created, I've laid down some black membrane and started using chippings to go on top of it. But I've run out at the moment. I've got a couple of sacks of the prunings from the winter up there, which hopefully I'll get to shred at some point, and we'll add to the chippings. But that area is probably on hold now for a while as the growing season takes over. The whole plot is begging for a mow and a strim, but that's not been the priority while I've been planting and getting everything established. So that'll come soon. These foxgloves that we put in pots, they're starting to flower now. They're going to be a real show, which is lovely. And the dahlias, which stay in this old water tank all year, have survived really well and are a much bigger plant this year than last year. And I'm starting to see just a few buds forming on them now. So looking forward to a nice show of dahlias. Extra pots of lettuce, which went into the chicken manure that had been rotted for a couple of years. Seems to be doing really well. That's certainly not too strong for planting into. And another couple there. And the black currants, which I've pruned really heavily, have got a reasonable amount of fruit on them. If you look underneath, I think we're going to have a fairly good show of black currants, which is nice. And this is my unknown, I don't know, could be a loganberry, could be a boysenberry. Nobody's been able to identify it from the videos, but what we have got now is a fair few flowers and therefore some fruit developing. So this is going to be the season that this plant reveals itself to us and we work out what it is. Over here we've got the gooseberry bush that we opened up, and we've got some nice fruit on there. Not a huge amount, but it's doing quite well. Looks like I've got to get some grasses out of there. And the potatoes, which I've been watering quite regularly, seem to be doing well. These are all shallots, and whereas the others were started in the polytunnel, these were planted outside and they're that much later. The additional bean bed that I planted up seems to have taken quite well. So we've got blotty climbers, blotty dwarf, cannellini, and down here a few gigantes. And they were just 2 leaves when I put them in, I don't know, about a week ago. And they're really cracking on nicely. So this is my sunflower for the sunflower challenge. Got a few extra strawberries there, which I just brought out. And I've got a couple of extra sunflowers in these 2 pots. And in here, which was the 1,000-headed cow disaster that I ended up re-sowing, we've now got some decent cow plants coming. So that'll be great for the chickens. The apple tree was covered in flowers, and now we can see that we're going to have a goodly amount of fruit. And this year I think I might be taking a few of those fruits off early so that we get a larger apple, because last year they were always very small apples. So we'll try a bit of that this year and see how we get on. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.